So last week I shot a video expressing my concerns about raising my Blasian daughter here in Japan, and the response was enormous. I received hundreds of comments on Facebook, dozens of private messages on different platforms, and a whole bunch of lengthy emails from people, some of whom I didn't even know had my email address. It was incredible seeing the number of people who are also wrestling with this same issue. This conversation is massive, and I didn't realize it. I simply wanted to share my personal concern, thinking that maybe it was something I was blowing out of proportion, but it turns out basically almost, I would say probably 90% of the people who responded responded saying that this is something that they have wrestled with themselves or are wrestling with now, wrestling with being the decision to raise their children here in Japan or raise them elsewhere. And so for starters, I just want to thank the people who commented, because my question when I posted the video was, if you're a parent or if you are mixed race, or if you have any experience in this space, could you please share it with me? Because I'm curious as to how I should deal with it. And there was just a tremendous amount of insight, and although I'm tempted to read to you guys a bunch of the comments, I'd recommend you just find the video, the original, and read through some of those comments. But I will share with you some of the insights that I found, and hopefully these are helpful for those of you who are, again, considering having a child, assuming you're foreign or not Japanese, and you're considering having a child and raising that child here in Japan or abroad. So in general, there are obviously two sides to the story. There are those who think that raising your child here in Japan is a great way of having them develop tough skin. And then on that same kind of side are those who either don't think bullying really exists anymore in the same way that it did maybe 20, 25, 30 years ago, or that they have children who are maybe mixed race and didn't really experience any bullying. So they're, generally speaking, on the side of it'll be fine. Overall, I think everyone who responded from a place of love, which was actually really nice. I think I expected a lot more kind of sarcasm, but people were generally really respectful. So thank you guys for that. And then on the other side, you had people who straight up recommend leaving. It's not worth it. My experience here was, bad in this way, that way, and the other, and that whole story. And it gave me a lot to think about. But one comment in particular by a friend of mine named Alex really stuck with me. He said, of course you want to encourage your daughter to grow up believing in herself and having tough skin, but at the same time, you want to be able to put her in an environment in which she's most likely to be happy and successful. I'm paraphrasing, he used different words, but that statement stuck with me, because when I think about it, if I compare raising my child, for example, in California versus here in Tokyo, where do I think my Blasian daughter would be happiest and have the most opportunity for success? And it's actually a big question that, and the answer, I think, differs based on where she is in life. When I think about her youth as it relates to schooling, I can't help but imagine that it would just be easier to be in the US, because there will just be so many other people like her. Not even necessarily half Japanese, but half Asian, if you will. But most importantly, just biracial. There's just so many mixes in that part of America. But later in life, in terms of success, whatever that ends up meaning for my daughter, that may very well be here in Japan. I don't know that it would or wouldn't be, and frankly, she's 10 months old now. By the time she's, let's say, 20 or 21, it's 20 years from now. Japan's going to be a very different place, and it's increasingly it's increasingly multicultural, but still far from where maybe I'd like it to be, obviously, as a foreign person living here. But I think we all know that it's only going to increase in terms of its multiculturalism. And so there is a high chance that by the time Jasmine's an adult, Japan could actually be an amazing place for her to thrive. It may also be that way now for her as a child, meaning that some of the comments I got from, again, one side of the spectrum were that things are not the way they were 10, 20, 30 years ago. And, if she goes through the schooling system now, it's a very different thing, especially in central Tokyo where we live. So it definitely makes the decision a bit complicated in terms of what do I actually do with my own daughter. But like I said earlier, more than anything, I'm grateful to know that I'm not the only parent experiencing this or grappling with this issue, and that every single person who commented has at least thought about it. And again, a good 90% have struggled with the decision. So as to what I'm planning on doing with Jasmine, I don't yet know, but in my heart, I still believe that her being raised somewhere where she can feel proudly somewhere where she can feel like she's accepted for who she is really important to me. And even given the changes that I've seen in my 12 years here in Japan and the stories that I've heard from other people about how Japan is changing, I don't truly believe that Japan is that place where my daughter could grow up and feel really accepted. And again, I still see that as being a huge problem. So what it is we're going to do, not set in stone, but I'm leaning pretty hard towards returning to the US within the next couple of years. It's not something we plan on doing this year or next year, but the reality is my wife was essentially raised in America, despite being Japanese. And Josh and Luna, who are 12 and 10, Jasmine's older siblings, would also love to live in America. Their English is essentially fluent at this point. And so when I think about, the viability of moving there and living there and how that would be for the family, it seems to really just make sense. Obviously, without even focusing on America and politics, there's just a lot going on in the world in general right now. So when that move happens is unclear, but I'm pretty much sitting on the side of going back at some point. And the family is quite supportive of that, in that each individual member would like to do that for their own individual reasons. So more than anything, I just wanted to say thanks. This video's more than anything to say that I had no idea how big a problem this is for so many people, and I am really grateful for the responses, because it's helped me know that I'm not alone in this decision-making process. It's being made by plenty of other people right now, and it has been made by plenty of other people in the past, and people in the future will also make this same decision. So if you're one of those people who's making it now or will make it in the future, I hope part 1 of this and this part 2 is helpful. And again, I'd encourage you to just scroll through the comments and read them, because they've actually been really supportive, and they're on both sides of the spectrum, so you can kind of find what it is you need from people's experiences, because that's what I've been able to do through this. I haven't even had a chance to respond to all of the comments because there have been so many. It has been actually overwhelming, but also really heartwarming. So more than anything, thank you to those of you who responded and watched the first and this second one. And it's really comforting to know that the internet still has a degree of compassion. And the internet really is us. It's comprised of people who are on it. So thank you to you guys for watching and for sharing your stories. It's made my decision-making process in many ways a lot easier. knowing that I'm not alone and that so many people have dealt with the same thing. So, thanks, guys.